Let's look at another example of a paired t-interval. This one is called advertising and sales. A convenience food known as Quick Nosh was introduced into the British market in January 1992. After a poor year for sales, the manufacturers initiated an intensive advertising campaign during January of 1993. The sales, in thousands of pounds, for a 1-month period before and a 1-month period after the advertising campaign are listed for each of the 11 regions. Find a 95% confidence interval for the mean difference in sales. And then our order of subtraction is given to us as after minus before. So if you had just kind of stumbled across this problem on a homework or quiz and you weren't quite sure whether this was a 2-sample t or a paired t, there's a couple of clues here that'll point you toward that paired t. So the first one is that they use that phrase mean difference in the problem itself. So that's a really good clue. You're using a paired t process. And then the other clue that I'm seeing is they have 11 regions listed, and for each region we have 2 data points. We have what their sales were before the advertising campaign and then what their sales were after the advertising campaign. And so that's also making me think that this is more of a paired t process. All right, the data sets, you'll find those in the Chapter 21 data sets for Excel. This one's titled Sales. And you'll notice that we have a column for the sales before and then the sales after. But what we're really interested in is that column on the far right called the differences column. This is where I subtracted the after minus the before for each of the regions. And then what I did was I found the mean, the standard deviation, and the sample size for just those differences in the differences column. All right, what I'd love for you to do is pause the video, and I'd like you to see how well you do with panic and getting this one squared away. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this one. The P, I put down 95% CI, mean difference in sales after the marketing campaign. So something kind of along those lines. The A is our assumptions and conditions. So we don't have a random sample here. It doesn't state that in the problem, but the way that I'm reading the problem, it kind of seems like there were only 11 regions and they did all 11 regions. So if that's the case, we can consider this a census, and so that would be fine. But I went ahead and marked SRS as not stated because it is a little bit unclear. There's not enough information to really know exactly what's going on. I do have the normal probability plot for the differences column. It is a tiny bit bumpy, but it's fairly straight. If you line up a paper next to it, it'll look pretty good. And then that standard deviation from just the differences column is 0.91. The N is our paired t-interval. And then the endpoints I got here are 0.24 to 1.46. Okay, and if you didn't get those, don't worry. I'm going to show you how I got those in Excel once I get past the conclusion statement here. So once we have our endpoints, our conclusion statement is good to go. We are 95% confident the true mean difference in sales after the marketing campaign is somewhere between 0.24 and 1.46 thousandths of pounds. Okay, so one thing to notice is that both of those numbers are positive, which means that we are definitely showing that advertising campaign is working. Okay, our sales afterwards have increased, which is what we were looking for. All right, so if you felt good about finding those interval endpoints, you're welcome to move on. If not, I'm going to switch over to Excel and I'll just show you how I got those put in. All right, so you do want to be on the paired t-interval in the Excel stat calculators. And once you're on that one, it says paired t-confidence interval up here at the top too. We're going to input our numbers in those boxes that are yellow. So I have 0.95 for the 95% confidence. It had a mean of 0.85, a standard deviation of 0.91, and then we had a sample size of 11. And once I put those in, we can see our endpoints here are that 0.24 to the 1.46, which is what I had on that slide.